Hi everyone, GrayPower 60 here. Oh, sorry. Oh my God. I have got to, let me get this set. Okay. Stop bouncing. Please. Do you remember the pink trunk that was on my desk in the living room right under the windows? And beside that was a container that I had all kinds of papers and stuff in. Well, I finally emptied it, and as I was going through it, I found, there, two stories that I've written that are in editing process. Sorry, I don't want to move this. This is something my daughter gave me. A big journal that was given to me because everybody knew I loved writing. Well, that I worked with, close that I worked with. And this was given to me on my retirement, October 28th, 2010. And I've kind of written a few things in it. The first week, I think. The first week of retirement, and then I stopped writing until a year later, or 6 months later. I don't want to shake, and I'm shaking it. I am so sorry. Let's see if we can get this. I've got it on that snake thing because it's the only thing I can put my phone on. What are you into? Go lay down. And I found this binder. This binder is full of journal writings, diary type entries, and story lines that I wanted to do. And here's something I wrote. I'm sharing. I can't believe I'm sharing this. Thursday, June 28th, 2001. When I first started writing, I never expected to be a writer. I always wrote as if to talk to someone. I found therapy in getting all my thoughts out of my head and down on paper. It felt good to get everything out, my thoughts, my feelings, my moods, my dreams, and my daily life. As a young girl, most of my daily writings would become brief points just to jot them down, and sometimes I would skip a week or two. With my very next entry, I would briefly point out nothing new. So that was kind of in my diary when I was a kid. Some of my entries were, I was mad, I was in love, Rod is cute, Anne and I had a fight, typical kid stuff, right? It's a sunny day, Anne and I had a fight again. These entries were done between the ages of 8 and 11, and I think that's when I started wanting to be a nun and to write down things. And wanting to be, I didn't want to be a writer. I just wanted, I think when I was young, it was more of writing down to be witness that I existed. Does that make sense? I don't know. When I was 12, my father got posted to a small town called Clinton, Ontario. We lived there for 3 years. For most of those years, they were very important to my life. I went from a teeny bopper to a full-fledged teenager. This was quite an important for us young girls in those days. While still living in Ottawa at the age of 10, I was allowed to, allowed to what on the city? Oh, hop on the city bus and go downtown. It's where I lived most of my young life and kind of in a fantasy. But it was lovely. I would read all the teen magazines, tips on makeup, hair, and clothes and etiquette. I was so happy to be old enough to have a purse which required contents. The contents of the purse had always been a mystery to me, especially since we were forbidden to go into my mother's purse. So how's a young girl to know what the requirement items are? This is so funny, eh? There was always optional items deposited in our own purse for our own personal use, and I spent many years with the goal of determining what other women and other girls put in their purses. You know, silly writings. I think I was starting to write, and I wrote quite a bit, quite a few pages, excuse me, about the things that I did in those days. Crazy, crazy things. But I was just having a good giggle going through some of these. They used to be everywhere. Oh, excuse me, it's late. Oh. Constantly questioning myself about different things. And I feel bad because when I was young girl, I got married young, and 20. And before I packed up all of my things, I was going to Germany because my ex-husband was military and leaving home for the first time. And because I was now a mature woman, I thought that I should destroy all my diaries, and I did. And I regret it today because I had some fantastic stories. You know, during the time of the Beatles, I was 12, 13, so very impressionable young girl. And, I want to get comfortable and I can't. Maybe if the phone's plugged in because it's low. I had 3 girlfriends. I had 2 girlfriends. So the 3 of us were Beatle crazy. Absolutely Beatle crazy. And one girl was Claudette and the other was Sue. There was 4 of us and Debbie. I'd forgotten. But Debbie didn't join us, the rest of us, as much. She wasn't as... Hey! Go! Go! Sorry, I'll have to try and edit that part out. The dog was after the garbage. He's just being a nuisance lately. I've had him out 3 or 4 times. He won't go into his bed. Go to your bed. You're not coming up. Anyway, oh my God. Sorry. So, Sue, Claudette, and Claudette liked to play the guitar. And Susan was more not fragile. I'm trying to think of a word. She was more innocent, I think, more feminine, I guess, than the rest of us. And anyway, so we decided Sue liked John. Claudette liked Ringo. I loved Paul. And Debbie liked George. But when Debbie dropped out of our group, before we went and auditioned, and we sang at an audition. We were 13 and naive, and it was just for a local party, fair, or something. I don't even remember what it was, but I remember us singing Beatles songs. I remember us practicing. The song that we sang was, oh my gosh, I think it was by the Animals or by Gary and the Pacemakers, or Jerry and the Pacemakers. That was Gary. Anyway, a long time ago. And as we were getting off stage, I was terrified, absolutely terrified. I was terrified to stand in front of anybody in those days. And I remember when we were going off stage, the guy that was auditioning groups said to me, I was terrified. Claudette was a pretty good singer. Sue was very, very shy. I mean, more than I was. And he said to me, you know, if you practice and you were a little bit louder in your voice, if you could project your voice more, you could be a pretty good singer. Oh, I thought he was nuts. And in my heart of hearts, I was, you know, to be honest with you, I wanted to be a nun. And from the time I was about 6, 7, or 8, up until I think I was 15. Yeah, 15, really. And I thought that was the kind of life I was going to have, and I was thinking I was going to be a singing nun and teach little babies and go around the world and give up all my worldly goods and stuff. Isn't that funny? The funny thing is that I wasn't allowed to see or speak to my parents once I went into the convent. And I think things have changed a lot now, but in those days, in the 50s and 60s, I was told that I would have to break all contact with my family, and there was just me and my brother and my parents, and I was very, very close to them, and I couldn't do it. But that's not the path that God had for me, because I have 2 beautiful children and 5 absolutely super grandsons, and that's what I was meant to do. And I'm here looking after my mom. She's looking after me too. So things are going pretty good with Mom and I. I think, you know, living together for the first time in like 30, 40 years, 40 years, I think, since I've lived with my mom. No, it would be more than that. I'm 66 and I left when I was 20, 46 years. You know, being on my own, being an independent woman, doing all my own thing. It's like marriage, really. If you haven't lived with your husband, your partner, and you lived with them, that first year is horrible. I remember my first year with my ex-husband. Was horrible. It was trying to get to know each other. I had very specific ideas about how our life was going to be. He thought he was going to be the macho man and the boss of the house and in control. After a good cry and threatening to leave, he apologized, and we went through some patchy stuff, but we got over it, and we were pretty happy for about 4 years. We were extremely happy and very independent. And then I got pregnant because we'd been trying, and finally we got pregnant, and my daughter was born. And that was, I don't know, by the time we started having trouble after about the 10th year, and we separated after the 13th year and divorced a year later. But we separated very, not at first. I was very angry and upset with him. But once I was happy again, and he was too. Things were okay, you know. But getting back to my story stuff, I mean, you know, we never know what life is going to give us. We never know. And today, the funniest, and I wrote it down because I didn't want to forget. I took the dog out for a walk, and as I was coming back, that loud noise out there is the bus going by, because it's right beside my room. Where did I write it? Oh, here it is. And I even put the date because I didn't want to forget. As I was coming back in with the dog, I looked, and it almost like right in front of me, a dove flew by. And it's the second time I've seen a dove fly so close to me in a month, in the last couple of weeks. So I wrote this down because I didn't want to forget. Today I saw a turtle dove fly right in front of me. As I looked up at her, she kind of tipped her head and looked at me. I looked away for a moment, and when I looked up again, she was gone. The branch that she had been sitting on had been waving and swaying in the summer wind. Isn't that funny? And it seems to be the same dove. And you know it's a female because the females are not as pretty as the men. The male birds, that's just the way life is. We are, I guess the men have to strut their stuff somewhere, right? I guess we humans make up for it, but I thought that was really interesting, and I wonder who the dove is. I mean, it could have been my mother, not my mother, my grandmother, or my cousin. But it was just odd because the way the bird, it flew like in front of me. I mean, not over my head or, you know, or a distance away. I almost felt the flutter. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't that close, but I feel like I felt the flutter because I was looking down at the dog, because that as we're going in, sometimes he falls over. And I don't know if I felt the flutter or if I felt the bird fly by or if it just flew by. I mean, I'm trying to analyze it now, and I shouldn't, but I was wondering afterwards, because the way she crooked her head to look down at me, like, I don't know. I just found that rather spiritual. Who knows? Who knows? Sometimes I look for signs and I don't know who they're from. I just hope it's a loved one. But anyway, that's about all for tonight. I'm just babbling on here. I was going to read part of this other story that I had written. I mean, the one that I've been editing tentatively is called Echoes from a Clarinet. Echoes from a Clarinet. That's kind of a mystery story, which it was my first attempt because I love fiction. I love nonfiction, rather. I love some fiction, mostly biographies and things, but nonfiction, I love the stories. I even love stories that border on truth or reality to a point. But one of my favorite authors is Dan Brown. You know, Angels and Demons and you know, Da Vinci's Code and all of that. And I never really was much into mysteries or things like that. But the first book I read was the Da Vinci Code. And then I read Fortress. And then I read Angels and Demons. And I absolutely loved the series. And then, of course, I saw the movies with Tom Hanks, and I think Tom Hanks did an excellent job of portraying it. And what I loved was that what I read in the book sort of came to life and all that. And I enjoy that. So, but my writing, I always loved stories. Like I like things that are made up that could be true but that are not. I got a tickle in my throat tonight. But I was going to read a paragraph of my story, and then I thought that's a little bit, that's really using my YouTube channel and putting you poor people through some horrible stuff. But it's just, I had forgotten about this story, and this storyline, this one, is kind of, I don't remember what it was called. Did I have it written down here? Oh, The Secret Taker. That was my working title, The Secret Taker. But I don't know. I don't know if I should read anything to you. Maybe I should, just for fun. And I might edit it out and not even bother, but bear with me. I mean, I don't know. Might be crazy. Dawn is a time when heaven kisses the earth. A time when miracles happen. Like a baby struggling to be born, or an accident victim filled with pain and crossing over into the unknown. Each time these events occurs, one of us is there. We guide you in dreams, we warn you at an opportune moment, we make suggestions in your mind. We are your intuition, we are your gut feeling. We are the cold breeze that brings shivers up your spine. Everyone has a path, a life path towards destiny. It's about choices, and each choice will move them, taking them in one direction or another, and then another. Perhaps a detour that is a temporary necessity, but is always leading towards the goal. And we are there. Later today, I will meet Adam. His road has been filled with many detours. Some of those detours were rough and almost unbearable. As one life touches another, and another, and another, the maze of life intertwines until it is finished. Adam will feel his intuition tell him how to deal with these detours, but Adam might not listen. It needs editing badly, but, anyway. That is just, I wrote that, I can't even remember when I wrote it. I mean, this edited version was 2006, so, I mean, it was long before that. I remember writing this. I was still working. I was living on jazz. That would have been prior to 2000. But anyway. Thanks for indulging me in this silliness tonight, and thanks for joining me for my bedtime chat. I really don't have a lot to say, and I hope you come back and join me again. I'll try and do this a little more often, and this was requested by Connie. Connie, love you, girl. Thank you so much for supporting me. Thank you so much for the kind words that you say about Mom and me, and thanks to everyone who leaves messages of sweetness about Mom, and I pass them on to her, and she always says, the next time you talk to them, you tell them thank you very much. Mom is sweet sometimes. She's settling into being with me, and she realizes that my rough talk, she calls it my rough talk, is just the way I talk. It has nothing to do with emotions, and I never try and hurt her. We're both trying to live with each other that you know, we haven't done in many, many years, and we're getting there. I'm feeling a big difference. I'm feeling more able to cope with her. She's allowing me to be on my computer more and to talk to you guys more. And now that I've included her, I think she's kind of excited about that. I showed her the video I put up when we were visiting Dad, and I showed her the video when we were chatting, and she rather enjoyed it. So, because I know my mom used to be a bit of a ham. She loved getting her picture taken. She always took marvelous pictures. I hated my picture taken, and they were always awful, always. Growing up, I hated getting my picture taken. And so, Mom being a bit of a ham, I think she's enjoying it. And for me, this is a good souvenir, a good memory to put in my memory box of Mom. Life is funny. I could go before her, so I need to make sure that things are in place for Mom should anything happen to me. We don't know what's going to happen in life. I do my best to be careful and to try and do my best to have a smile every day and try and take care of myself as best I can. I'm not doing as well as I used to, health-wise. I mean, I'm not looking after myself as well as I used to because I was so busy worrying about Mom, but I think we've got a good balance going. I think things are going great. Anyway, this is getting way too long. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye for now.